We will start then, Venerable Ajahn. Buddhu Saranai. Let me welcome our Dhamma friends to the International Dhamma Program, Nikini Poya Dhamma Talk. That will be, just give me a minute. I have to make these people. Nikini Poya Dhamma Talk on the topic, the mind of all beings, the marvelous quality of awakened awareness. This will be conducted by the Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro, the abbot of the Amaravati Buddhist monastery in the UK. Ajahn Amaro is a Theravada Buddhist monk and teacher and abbot of the Amaravati Buddhist monastery at the eastern end of the Chiltern Hills in southeast England. The center in practice, as much for ordinary people as for monastics, is inspired by the Thai forest tradition and the teachings of the late Ajahn Chah. Its chief priorities are the practice and teaching of Buddhist ethics, together with traditional concentration and insight meditation techniques in an effective way of dissolving suffering. Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro also established the Abhayagiri Monastery in Redwood Valley, California, when he was co-abbot with Ajahn Pasanno until 2010. He then returned to Amaravati on the invitation of Ajahn Sumedo to become abbot of the large monastic community. He has also co-authored about 30 books, all for free distribution. Among these are Finding the Missing Piece, a primer of Buddhist meditation, The Breakthrough, Buddhist meditation as a means of liberation, Less is More, Frugality, Generosity and Renunciation, Catastrophe, Apostrophe, Reflections on Dependent Origination, Cessation, Mind is What Matters, the phenomenological teaching of the Buddha, and of course, the Copper Isle Miles, a pilgrimage to Sri Lanka. So I'm very thankful to Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro, because I know that Ajahn Amaro is quite busy and involved. In fact, when I initially invited for the Poya Day, he was quite busy and was involved with the teachings and the Poya Day celebrations at his own monastery in Amaravati. But later I said that I think our Dhamma friends are very interested to listen to Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro, and he kindly consented and agreed to give the Dhamma talk, and I'm very thankful, and we are very hopeful that this is not the first time. Earlier too, Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro has done programs for us, and which were very well received by all our Dhamma friends. So I would now invite, with respect, Ajahn Amaro to commence the Dhamma talk and to give the 5 precepts, and thereafter the Dhamma talk. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone gathered for this auspicious event. So I will happily lead the determination of the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Saranam gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata Vairapmani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Adinadana Vairapmani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Kamesu Michachara Vairapmani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Musavada Vairapmani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Sura Meraya Majapamadhatana Vairapmani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikapadani Silena Sugatinyanti Silena Poga Sampada Silena Nebutinyanti Tasama Silang Visodaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Remember, there's a slight maybe vibration. I don't know whether it's
I have not made any adjustments to my
right.
microphone.
That's right. We'll go ahead.
So if there's anything to be adjusted, I think it needs to be done so at your end. There's nothing I
don't know whether. No, now it's okay. We will start.
Okay.
Right.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. The title that was suggested for this Dhamma reflections today, it looked a little bit familiar to me. I saw that it was a title given to a talk I gave last year at, I think, Visakha Puja, and so that I'll try not to be repeating exactly what I said then, but there'll probably be some kind of overlap by necessity. So this theme of awakened awareness, the marvelous quality of awakened awareness, I feel this is absolutely central to Buddha Dhamma. The word Buddha means awake, it means aware, and so that is the defining quality of the Lord Buddha himself. That particular attribute is the way that we refer to this great being, and the manner in which this sasana, this religious dispensation, is named. So it's a quality of absolutely central significance in this spiritual work that we are undertaking. When we use a word like awareness, awakened awareness, it can be understood to refer to a number of different things. The English word English words can be interpreted in a variety of ways. So the term awakened awareness I'm using particularly as a translation for the Pali word vijja, and that's a mental quality, a quality of attitude, a quality of knowing. And it's I feel it's important to understand that just as ignorance, avijja, its opposite, doesn't just mean a lack of information, which the English word ignorance is generally taken to mean that we don't have the practical knowledge or the conceptual understanding of something. We're ignorant about how to drive a car, or we're ignorant how to write a computer program. In Buddhist psychology, the quality of ignorance doesn't just mean a lack of information, rather it means an unawareness, a lack of clear seeing, a lack of clear vision. And awareness doesn't just mean being conscious or being in a state of understanding something conceptually, but it's rather the quality of wakeful, aware knowing itself, which is non-conceptual, non-verbal. It's a quality of the citta, which is that which is liberating, and which is I would say, the potential that we all have as human beings, as living beings, is to draw upon that quality of awakened awareness. And the more that is actualized, the more that quality is embodied in the way that we see the world. We know this mind, this body, the experiential field of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Then the closer the heart, the citta, is to liberation. Also, I feel it's helpful to understand that the Lord Buddha didn't use terminology in a super precise way. He spoke in a fairly flexible ways. He used a somewhat broad brush approach towards teaching, and so that when we use particular terms, they don't always have exactly the same meaning in every situation, but there can be a constellation of meanings, and also other words that refer to the same kind of area. So just as in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha's first teaching, when he's describing his experience of liberation, awakening, he says, Chakung Udapadi, vision arose, Jnanang Udapadi, knowledge arose, Panya Udapadi, wisdom arose, Jnanang Udapadi, Vijja, Aloka, light arose. So wisdom, Panya, Chaku, vision, Jnana, knowledge, Aloka, light. So all these different words are used to allude to the same quality of awakening. So I feel it's helpful to understand that the Buddha often used a whole group of words or to refer to a particular quality, or he used different means of expression. So it's not always exactly the same word to say refer to exactly the same experience or quality every single time. He used this kind of broad brush approach in the teaching, so that, as I said, you have in the Dhammacakka Sutta, Chakung Udapadi, Jnanam Udapadi, Panya Udapadi, Vijja Udapadi, Aloko Udapadi. The words are used to describe a range of expressions used to refer to the same experience. So Vijja, one of those words that he uses there, is how I generally referring to awakened awareness. Also, Panya, wisdom, or Sati Panya, mindfulness and wisdom, I feel is an almost identical term. And Appamada, a word usually translated into English as heedfulness, I feel these are all very, very comparable terms. And I'm sure there have been erudite theses written in universities on what's the difference between Panya and Vijja, or what's the difference between Vijja and Appamada. But I feel that the Buddha deliberately used language in quite a flexible way. And so rather than going into sort of nitpicking detail, that I feel it's quite appropriate and meaningful, useful to use those words in flexible ways. And then so that we're in a teaching like the verse 20 of the Dhammapada, where the Buddha says, "Appamada amatapadang," mindfulness, heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The heedful never die. The heedless are as if dead already. That even though the word appamada is used in that particular verse, I feel it's totally appropriate to consider, we can look at vicca in exactly the same way, that it's a comparable term. It has a comparable range of meanings, and so that it's quite interchangeable in that respect. So in this way, when we talk about awakened awareness and the marvelous quality of it, then I feel it's helpful to clarify this, or particularly nowadays when mindfulness is a word that's used for many programs and seminars, teachings, trainings around the world. It's gained a great deal of popularity and significance, and there's a range of meanings that are attached to that word. Just as to say, be aware or be awake, there's a range of meanings attached to that. So I feel it's helpful to consider what is the genuinely liberating quality of awakened awareness, or what's the genuinely liberating quality of mindfulness, and what isn't. What are the other aspects of it that are perhaps useful and meaningful, but are not intrinsically liberating in and of themselves. So that in that respect, when we look at mindfulness, sometimes it can seem as though it's been presented as a sort of a panacea, a cure for everything. That if we are mindful, then all our problems will be over. And then one can quote, say, that verse from the Dhammapada saying, the mindful never die, the heedless are as if dead already. So we think, if I'm mindful, then everything is good. I'm paying attention, so therefore I'm fulfilling my spiritual potential to its absolute level. And I would say that's really a mistaken understanding. There can be mindfulness of varying degrees and with varying qualities of say delusion or self-view or conceit, attachment woven into that. So we have I feel that when we talk about awareness or mindfulness, that we are not mistaking the simple quality of attention, or acute attention or focused attention, for awakened awareness, or for that which is genuinely liberating. So, for example, some programs or some practices that support what's called mindfulness and can be experienced as a sharpening of attention, I would say not particularly wholesome at all. There's an account in the book Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari, quite a significant and recently published book, where a journalist is doing a story on the military, and she has this experience of using some equipment on a firing range, and she just in her account, was published in a reputable journal, she describes how when she put on this particular helmet, which was designed to say focus your brainwaves, her mind was perfectly focused, and when she was challenged to carry out this shooting exercise on a firing range, whereas she when she tried the experiment without this helmet to boost mindfulness, she hadn't scored very high. When she used this equipment and her mind was extremely focused, the soldier who was running the test with her informed her that she hit every target, and her mind was focused all the time. Distracted thoughts had stopped. She felt it was a very pleasant experience, but she was involved in shooting a weapon, and had that been a battlefield, that would have been dead human beings that she would have been responsible for. So her mind was focused, and there was a quality of sharpened attention, but being connected with the destruction of life, and in that kind of say, military arena, then yeah, there's a focus of attention, but it's been divorced from its moral quality, and it's the mere act of attention on its own. So I feel that's helpful to understand when we talk about awareness, and particularly I would say the awakened aspect of awakened awareness. It's saying it's not just sati on its own, because sati can be miccha sati, it can be wrong mindfulness. It's still mindfulness, but it's miccha rather than samma. It's distorted, or it's not connected to Dhamma and not connected to reality in any direct way. So I feel when we talk about these areas, awareness or mindfulness, to be clear about what it is we're talking about. So I would say that when we are referring to vicca, awakened awareness, or appamada, heedfulness, or mindfulness conjoined with wisdom, satipanya, then that intrinsically involves a moral element to that. If it's samma sati, right mindfulness, if it's vicca, if it's appamada, then there is an intrinsic moral element that's woven into that, so that the sense of some action being dishonest or destructive, that's going to be leading towards a painful result for other beings, or an unhelpful and unskillful result for ourselves, for this being, then that's going to be extremely apparent. There's always that element of sila, the quality of hiriyottapa, or moral sensitivity, will be acutely there. And I would say that the more that quality of vicca is established, and the more that is mindfulness is conjoined genuinely with wisdom, it's satipanya, then that quality of virtue is going to be closer and closer to the surface. So, for example, there's a couple of suttas that you find in, I believe, in the book of the Nines, the Anguttara Nikaya, the book of the Nines. I think it's Sutta 7 and Sutta 8, I'm not sure the precise numbers, but where the Buddha is talking to two different wanderers, Suttava and Sajja, and he's describing the nature of the Arahant, and he says it's impossible for an Arahant to deliberately take life. It's impossible for an Arahant to take what is not given. It's impossible for an Arahant to engage in sexual activity. It's impossible for an Arahant to deliberately tell a lie. It's not say doable, because the mind is so perfectly attuned to Dhamma. It's so perfectly embodying Dhamma that the tongue cannot form a lie. The hand cannot move to deliberately take a life. It's just the hand cannot pick up and take an object that with the knowledge that it belongs to another person. It's not something that is ours. So I feel that's it's helpful to understand when we speak about the marvelous quality of awakened awareness, that it's not just being alert, it's not just being attentive, not just having a sharpness of faculties, but the more that is really in tune with Dhamma, then the more that there is that natural moral quality. And we can see that that for someone like the Lord Buddha, that as a great Arahant, then their life is naturally as virtuous as possible in terms of the quality of harmlessness, the quality of honesty, the qualities of say attunement to the time and the place and the situation. With respect to the awakened awareness and how to say cultivate this as a quality, then one can speak say in praise of that, saying this is extremely wholesome, extremely beneficial, and we can hear words like I'm speaking now. We can read in the suttas and have a sense of, yes, this is really valuable, and this is extremely important, and that the more that this quality can be actualized in our lives, then the better. And what often happens with respect to that intention to say be more mindful, or to be awake, to be aware, to say dedicate our lives to the cultivation of this quality for our own benefit and for the benefit of other beings, is that unconsciously, unwittingly, the habits of self-view and conceit, the Sakaya Ditti, self-view, and Asmimana, the conceit of identity, they infiltrate into the attitude with which that intention is being formed, so that it becomes I need to be more awake, I need to be aware, I recognize awakened awareness is a wonderful liberating quality. Yeah, I need more of that. I need to get rid of my ignorance. I need to dispel all my defilements. I need to wake up for my benefit and for the benefit of all beings. So when we hear those words, we can consider, well, yes, that's right, Ajahn. I fully agree. Isn't that correct? But if we listen closely, then along with that skillful intention, we might not notice that there's an I who's got a lot of defilements, and I need to wake up. I need to get rid of my ignorance. I need to be awake, so I will be a benefit to me and to other beings. So insidiously, the habits of self-view and conceit, Sakaya Ditti and Asmimana, are creeping into the picture, like the COVID virus or other viruses, so unwittingly being taken into the system and affecting the view. And so that even though it might be a skillful intention, then the result of effort and intention being based upon or being affected by those habits of I-making and mind-making, then the result of that is always disappointing. There's an element of dukkha. We're creating the causes of dukkha by basing that the practice on I and me and mine. And so, as in the teachings of dependent origination, usually the cycle is named as beginning with avijja, not seeing clearly. Avijja pacaya sankhara, with ignorance. This conditions formations and so forth. So if there is ignorance, if there's not seeing clearly, avijja, then the result eventually at the end of the causal chain is dukkha. Avijja pacaya sankhara, sankhara pacaya vijnana, vijnana pacaya nama rupang, and so on, all the way to dukkha. So if our practice is based on avijja, on I have a lot of defilements, I need to get rid of them, I need to wake up so I will be liberated, then if you start off with avijja, then the result is necessarily going to be dukkha. So instead, I feel it's very important to say establish that intention, the motivation to wake up, to be awake, and the effort needed to bring about that awakening, that establishment of the heart in awakened awareness, in vijja, for that to be free of self-view, free of conceit, so that the guiding forces, the motivating forces for the practice are mindfulness and wisdom. They are awakened awareness, is vijja itself, and so rather than self-view being woven into the picture. But this is not easy, but I feel it's an extremely significant area of Dhamma practice. So what the Buddha called Dhammanu Dhamma Patipada, practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma, is exactly this, so that when the mind is forming an intention, that sort of resolution on waking up, then it's not based on I am not awake, I need to wake up, I need to get rid of my ignorance and become enlightened for the benefit of all beings, but rather here is the experience of not seeing clearly. The quality of awakened awareness will help clarify that vision. There isn't a being here who's the owner of defilements, or a being who is absolutely ignorant, but there is these experiences of obstruction, of not seeing clearly, and there's the potential to wake up. So it's a subtle difference, but when the practice is based on vicca, on awakened awareness, and that's what guides intention, then there's genuinely samma sankappo, the right resolution, right intention, right aspiration. And when that's acted upon, it's genuinely right effort, samma vayamo. It's not me trying to get rid of my defilements, me trying to be concentrated, me trying to develop wisdom so that I can be liberated, but rather effort is being made based upon that skillful direction. There's samma sankappo, samma vayamo, and then the results of basing the practice on in this way on vicca, on awakened awareness. The result is liberation. The result is the realization of nibbana. You start off with vicca, then the end result is nibbana. So that's a simple way of bringing a lens to clarify the basis of practice. That if you start off with ignorance, you end up with dukkha. You start off with awareness, then you end up with nibbana. So kind of pocket version of that, and helpful to bear that in mind. Also, when we are speaking about awakened awareness, and sometimes in the practice and in meditation guidance, then there's the effort or the intention to practice non-attachment, to be and the advice, the instruction in meditation might be just be the aware, just be the one who knows, just be the watcher, the observer. So you're clarifying that quality of awareness by quote unquote just looking, just being the watcher, just being the observer. But in exactly the same way, there can be an unconscious me who's the observer, me who's just watching, me who's being awake and aware. So I feel that in the efforts that are made in Dhamma practice, if it really is Dhamma practice, if it's practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma, then there isn't even a subtle sense of me the observer, me the watcher, me the one practicing non-attachment, but rather there is observing, there's watching, there's awareness, but it's not woven into, it's not affected by any kind of conceit, any kind of I-making and mind-making. Also, in that area, if we really want that awakened awareness to be genuinely liberating, leading to that realization of the marvelous quality of Dhamma itself, then there is a way that awareness is recognized as being intrinsically related to the objects of awareness. So we might feel like I'm just watching, I'm just being aware, I'm just observing, and in that effort to just watch or just be awake, just to be aware of things, we can be numbing the natural responsivity of the citta, and so that we're trying to make the mind into an abstracted observer, just like as if it was trying to turn our mind into a video camera that's just sort of recording data that is registering the changes of the phenomenal world, the field of experience, and is disconnected from that. So again, this is a subtle area of practice, but I feel very important because there can be a lot of effort put into just watching, just being aware, just knowing, and unwittingly the mind is freezing its natural responsivity, and so that we might think, I'm just watching, I shouldn't interfere, I shouldn't do anything, I shouldn't make any choices. Any kind of decision, any kind of action, any kind of choosing is taken to be an imposition upon reality, is like a distortion of Dhamma. And so that don't do anything, just watch might be the kind of instruction that we're following, or the kind of ethic that we've undertaken. But I feel that is again a bit of a mistake, because our capacity to act is part of the way things are. Our relatedness of this being to the environment that we are a part of is also part of the way things are. So sometimes it's taken that any kind of directionality, any kind of intention, or any kind of choice, any kind of effort or work is somehow a distortion, somehow an intrusion upon Dhamma. That I shouldn't disturb the universe. I should just watch, just be awake, just be aware. And I feel it's a distortion of understanding, really. Again, people can see things in different ways, but I feel that that when that approach is taken, then what is being missed is the natural relatedness of the mind to its field of experience, and that relatedness isn't necessarily an imposition or a distortion. There has to be a way that the mind can make choices and give direction that is completely in harmony with Dhamma. Otherwise, there could be no such thing as samma sankappo. Right? There could not be a right intention, which is part of the Eightfold Path, if every aspect of intentionality was somehow a disturbance or a distortion. There can be choosing without it being me choosing. There can be intention and aspiration without there being I or me or mine involved. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, how could samma sankappo be part of the Eightfold Path? Similarly, every kind of work or every kind of activity can't possibly be an imposition on Dhamma, or a distortion or a burden or stressful. There has to be a way that the work and effort and activity is completely in accord with Dhamma. Otherwise, samma vayamo could not be a part of the Eightfold Path. There could be no such thing as right effort if every kind of doing, every kind of work was intrinsically stressful. So we tend to think, oh, I'd like to have a rest, I need a break, or I'm looking forward to the weekend or my retirement when I don't have to bother with this. Even with meditation, we can be looking forward to the bell, not just because we've got aching knees, but just the meditation becomes this thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And it's weird, it's ironic and weird that sometimes the most peaceful moment of the meditation is when the bell rings and I don't have to do the meditation anymore. It's not because of the relief to the body, but rather it's the me not having to do something. It's the meanness and the having to that is stressful. But so I feel it's important to consider these areas, particularly samma sankappo, the right intention, the aspect of directionality. There has to be a way that choices can be made, direction can be given to our life. There can be a goal. Without that goal, goal-directedness being productive of dukkha. And there can be effort made, there can be work done based on those choices that is not stressful, not burdensome. We're not waiting for the weekend or our retirement or for the bell to ring so we can be peaceful. Peacefulness is there even as choices are being made and effort is being embodied, actualized. So these are, I think, in terms of awakened awareness, that it's, if we look at the life of the Lord Buddha as an example, the result of his enlightenment after the plea by the Brahma Sahampati was to then engage in teaching with extraordinary creativity and initiative for 45 years, traveling all throughout Northeast India for 45 years, establishing the Dhamma teachings, establishing the Sangha and the Fourfold Assembly, and teaching a vast variety of living beings with extraordinary creativity. None of that work and effort and decision-making was an imposition upon the peace and clarity of the Lord Buddha. His life was completely stress-free, even though he did a lot of work and was extremely creative and took great initiative. So I feel that when we consider the marvelous quality of awakened awareness, it's to see that awakened awareness is intrinsically a participation in the field of experience. It's not an abstracted dissociation from that. It's an unentangled participating in the field of experience rather than an awareness that's completely dissociated and sort of numb to that field of experience or dismissing it. So this is also why the Lord Buddha's his words, his actions were perfectly in tune with the time, the place, the situation, who he was with, the nature of the encounter between him and other beings. His words, his actions, his attitude were all always perfectly in tune because of that appreciation of the experiential field, so that awakened awareness is not a kind of spaced out abstraction from the field of our experience, but rather it's completely unentangled, it's unattached, but at the same time perfectly attuned. So this is I would say, perhaps a little difficult to understand conceptually, but I feel this is really the Buddha principle that we are, say, in this tradition, in this religious form, we are endeavoring to embody. That's Lokuttara, it completely transcends the world, but it's also Lokavitu, it knows the world, it's attuned perfectly to the world. So a couple of the teachings that I like to quote with respect to this, that reflect both the complete transcendence of the world, but also the say embodiment of the presence of that wisdom and its relationship to the world. When the Buddha was in a dialogue with a Brahmin called Dona. So Dona was walking along a dusty path in the countryside, and he saw the footprints in the dust of the road, and he saw the extraordinary marks, the symbolic symmetrical marks in the footprints. It looked like human footprints, but they're very extraordinary patterns and symbols that were there in the marks in the dust. So he followed the footprints into the forest, and he found the Lord Buddha sitting meditating under a tree. And Dona, the Brahmin, is extremely powerfully struck by the peaceful, radiant presence of this being sitting under the tree, and kneels down before the Buddha, and Buddha opens his eyes, and the Brahmin Dona speaks to him and says, "Excuse me, are you a deva? Are you an angelic being?" And then the Buddha says, "No, I'm not a deva." He said, "Are you a yaka, a celestial demon?" "No, I'm not a yaka." "Are you a Brahma god?" I said, "No, not a Brahma god." And then he says, "Are you a human being?" And then very interestingly, the Buddha says, "No, I'm not a human being." So again, an arahant cannot tell a lie. When the Buddha is asked the question by the Brahmin Dona, Manusosi, are you a human being? The full extent of what he says is, that whereby I could be known as a human being or a deva or a yaka or a Brahma, that has been cut off at the root, made like a palm tree stump, deprived of the conditions for existence, and made incapable of arising in the future. And so that there's a complete detachment or disentanglement from the five khandhas. But yet there he is, face to face with the Brahmin Dona having a conversation. And so then Dona says, "So can I ask, what are you?" And then the Buddha responds, "Buddhoti mang dareta." You can hold me as that which is awake. So I feel that's one of the main reasons why we use the word Buddha to refer to the great being, our great master, is when he defines his own nature, he says, Buddho, awake, aware. That's so Buddhoti mang dareta, hold me as that which is awake. So he can't tell a lie, but when he's asked, "Are you a human being?" even though the body was born of human parents, he says, "No." That whereby I could be known or defined as a human being has been cut off at the root, made like a palm tree stump, and so on. So there's both the physical presence there, there's a body there, there's the engagement of a conversation, but the mind is completely unlimited by that, is unburdened by that, is not defined by that. So that's mysterious to us. But I feel this is also pointing to how that quality of awakened awareness can be, actualized and can be, the most important principle in our life, enabling this life to be, developed to its full potential and of greatest benefit to other beings. The other dialogue I like to quote is between the Buddha and a wanderer called Vacchagotta. So Vacchagotta had been asking the Buddha philosophical questions about where does an enlightened being go at the death of the body? And the Buddha has already explained when Vacchagotta says, well, do they reappear in another realm? The Buddha says, reappear doesn't apply, Vaccha. And then Vacchagotta says, well, do they not reappear? And the Buddha says, well, does not reappear, does not apply, Vaccha. Well, do they both reappear and not reappear in another realm? And the Buddha responds, both reappear and not reappear, that doesn't apply. And then he says, well, to complete the set of 4 of the quadrilemma, well, do they neither reappear nor not reappear in another realm? And the Buddha responds, to neither reappear nor not reappear, that doesn't apply either. So Vacchagotta is really puzzled and confused. So, well, one of those has to be true. I'm really confused here, because surely that must cover the picture completely. And the Buddha said, well, Vaccha, you're asking the question that in a way that presumes a reality that doesn't exist. And he gives this very wonderful analogy. This is in a sutta called Vacchagotta and Fire, the Agi Vacchagotta Sutta, in the Sutta number 72 in the Majjhima Nikaya. And so he gives this wonderful example. He said, Vaccha, if we had a little fire burning here in front of us made of grass and sticks, and we let the fire go out, and I ask you the question, where did the fire go? North, south, east, or west? How would you reply? And Vacchagotta says, well, I'd say that the question doesn't apply. It didn't go north, south, east, or west. It just went out. The Buddha said, exactly. You're asking, the way you ask the question presumes a reality that doesn't exist. Reappear doesn't apply, doesn't reappear doesn't apply. Neither both and neither nor. None of those apply. Being doesn't apply, going doesn't apply, where doesn't apply. Time, identity, location, all the usual benchmarks for our experience of the 6 senses, none of those apply. So the way you put the question presumes a reality that doesn't exist. The Dhamma which is real is outside of time, outside of identity, outside of location. Location, identity, time, all these familiar structures don't apply to that unconditioned reality. It is akariko, timeless, ajata, unborn, amata, deathless, unborn, undying, asankata, unconditioned. So, and then he goes on to say to Vacchagotta, then that material form whereby someone trying to define the Tathagata would define him, that's been cut off at the root, made like a palm tree stump, deprived of the conditions for existence and being rendered incapable of arising in the future. So too, any feeling, any perception, any mental formations, any discriminative consciousness, so Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, any of the 5 khandhas whereby someone trying to define the Tathagata would define him, they've all been cut off, completely let go of. The bridge is down. There's no connection. But then he goes on to say the Tathagata is liberated from being reckoned, from being measured, from being determined in terms of Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, liberated from being reckoned in terms of the 5 khandhas. He is profound, immeasurable, unfathomable, like the great ocean. So there's a presence, there's a quality, tatata, there's a suchness, but that suchness can't be measured in terms of our usual conceptual structures, time, location, identity, language, number, concepts, all of those don't apply. So that there's a presence, there's a quality, there's an isness, a suchness, but our normal ways of measuring and naming, conceiving, they don't apply. They are not relevant. They have no meaning in that dimension. So again, I understand that this is a bit mysterious or strange, but I do feel it's really very significant in terms of practicing of Dhamma, the embodiment of Dhamma, that when the Buddha is speaking about this, he's essentially giving us sort of two principles. One is that the five khandhas are empty. They are any identification with the five khandhas, with the body, with feelings, perceptions, thoughts, concepts, ideas, mental structures of any kind. They are empty. They are not who and what we are. They are anicca, dukkha, anatta. They are unsatisfactory, impermanent, uncertain, and not self, not who and what we are. So the five khandhas are completely empty. So that when that quality of awakened awareness is embodied, is realized, it's clear the five khandhas are empty. They're not self. But at the same point, at the same moment, simultaneously, there's a yes to that quality of the Dhamma itself as a suchness. So sunyata is emptiness, is a term that we can use to refer to the five khandhas. The five khandhas are sunya, they're empty, but the Dhamma is such, there's tatatas, the quality of suchness is valid in relationship to the Dhamma. So in saying no to the apparent solidity of the five khandhas, there's also a yes to the reality of the Dhamma itself, the suchness of the Dhamma itself. So that those qualities, those two qualities, emptiness and suchness, sunyata and tatata, they are a pair. And so that just as the Buddha says, the Tathagata, the one thus gone, the one gone to suchness or come to suchness, is profound, immeasurable, unfathomable, like the great ocean. There's that marvelous quality. There's a sense of wonderment in the presence of that, in the realization of that, of Dhamma. But you can't pin that down in our ordinary everyday terms. So the Buddha uses the image of the ocean, like standing on a seashore, like say in Sri Lanka, when I was there, you mentioned the Copper Isle Miles, standing on the seashore at a place like on the northern tip of the island, the stupa where the Arahant Sanghamitta landed in her ship all those centuries ago, standing on the seashore and the waves rolling in and crashing on the beach. That you stand on the seashore and there's the waves rolling in, and there's the open ocean and the infinite horizon. That's the image that the Lord Buddha uses to refer to his own nature, profound, immeasurable, unfathomable, like the great ocean. There's a presence, there's a quality of limitlessness. We can't see what's below the surface. There's a quality of mystery. There's the energy, the power of the moving waves as they roll in and crash on the floor, on the shore. So there's a sense of energy, of power, of that dynamism that's a part of the mixture. So the Buddha uses a few words to refer to his own nature, or that nature of Dhamma as it's directly realized. But essentially, just as when one stands on the seashore and looks out to the horizon, there's that quality of openness and wonderment and an openness to an infinity, an infinitude. Then that's what he sort of picks up on that in a poetic way to refer to the realization of his nature, which is the nature of Dhamma itself. So, and I feel that when we consider, or the mind awakens to its own nature, when there's that realization of suchness, of the present reality, the suchness of Dhamma, then there's a recognition that this quality of awareness, it knows the personal, it knows the body, it knows feelings, it knows thoughts and memories and ideas, it knows the person, but it's not a person. It's not female or male. It doesn't have a nationality or an age. It doesn't have any qualifications, doesn't have a language. So awareness has no language, it has no nationality, it has no name, no age, no gender. All of those don't apply. So this quality of awakened awareness, it knows the person, but it's not a person. It knows the personal, these personal qualities. This awake, aware quality, it knows the personal, it knows the person, but it's not a person. It is, I would say that Dhamma, it's an attribute of Dhamma itself. So when that's that quality of awakened awareness is embodied, then just as, again, using the life of the Lord Buddha as an example, then even though it might sound a bit spacey, or kind of completely letting go of the five khandhas, the result of the Lord Buddha completely letting go of identification with the five khandhas, the result of that was that the five khandhas, as embodied in his body, his life, his mind, were then perfectly in tune with the world around him, with the situations that he was experiencing. They were the words he spoke, and the manner in which he handled 10,000 situations throughout his 45 years of teaching were all perfectly in accord and beneficial to other beings. Even if other beings didn't understand him or rejected his teaching, his efforts, his engagement, his words, his attitudes were as perfectly in tune with that situation as it was possible to be. So I feel this is a very good example, and also showing how when there's the practice of insight meditation, there's a recognition of this quality of awareness that it can be known directly. Oh, this isn't male or female. It's not old or young. It's not Sri Lankan or British or American or French or German or even human. This quality is it's awake. It's aware. It knows these personal qualities, and there's a recognition that how could this awareness that's known through this life be fundamentally different from the awareness as it functions through that knows other lives, that knows other bodies or other situations. And so in the first part of the title of this talk, the mind of all beings, not as a philosophical belief or an opinion to attach to, but through the direct experience of insight meditation and direct realization of this quality of awakened awareness, there can be that recognition of, oh, of course, how can this mind that knows this body and this field of experience be intrinsically different from other minds? Like, how could my gravity be different from your gravity? It's just the law of gravity. It's not mine. It's not personal. It's not like Sri Lankan gravity or British gravity or American or French or German or Australian. It's not female gravity or male gravity. They don't apply. It's ridiculous. So in exactly the same way that we can find that quality of empathy and compassion and a relatedness with all beings, that the mind that is experienced and known here, how could there be any fundamental difference between this mind and the minds of others, even if those minds are then, through the agency of another life, attached to hunger for food or contention and conflict or jealousy or selfishness, that awareness is being distorted by confusion and attachment to like and dislike, pleasure and pain, and so forth. But the fundamental essential quality of that heart, that knowing, how could it possibly be different? So, not stating that as an article of belief or that people should take to be true, but I feel that's something that can be experienced, can be directly known through the efforts of insight meditation in particular, and the result of that kind of realization, that kind of recognition, that intuition of relatedness, that how could the Dhamma in your life be different from the Dhamma in my life? My nature and your nature is the same nature, just as the physical elements that make up these bodies of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and the many material elements. How could they be different? They all function according to the same natural laws: the force of gravity, the passage of light, and so on. These are all non-personal. These are not individual. They are universal principles. So, when the heart awakens to its own nature, when that awakened awareness knows the present reality, the heart is awake to its own nature, then the result of that is a quality of liberation, but also a quality of perfect attunement and compassion, empathy with all other living beings. There's a relatedness that's not just an idea or a belief or a custom, but it's a fundamental realization. It's a direct knowing a quality of unity, of commonality. That, as my teacher Ajahn Chah put it, Dhamma is nature, nature is Dhamma. That every aspect of the natural world is an attribute of Dhamma, and that the mind which knows that is also an attribute of nature, an attribute of Dhamma. So that there's a recognition that the mind's fundamental nature is Dhamma, and that its basic activity is that of awareness. And so you might think the ideal, oh, I am the Dhamma, sounds like a really conceited view, but through insight meditation and through direct realization, there can be that recognition, not out of conceit, not out of inflatedness, not out of egotism, but recognizing, oh, what aspect of the body or mind is not part of nature? If nature is Dhamma, then that means that this citta, this heart, this mind, its fundamental nature is Dhamma. How could it not be? And with that, there's both a quality of freedom, a quality of empathy and attunement and respectfulness and compassion for the lives of all beings. So I see that the clock has gone round to, at least here in England, 2 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. An hour has gone by. So I'll finish my reflections there and open things up for some questions if people engaged in this Dhamma session would like to ask anything.
So thank you very much, Ajahn, for that very maybe it was a topic of awakened awareness. I think that was really explained in great detail, and I'm sure there might be questions also from our Dhamma friends. One thing that I really wanted to check is, I think Venerable Ajahn mentioned at the start also on the practical knowledge. Now, this most of these things would be really that practical knowledge and the constant maybe application of these, which will enable one to really get this topic of awakened awareness clear and broader in their mind.
Well, we start from where we're at, but just that in terms of the effort towards Dhamma practice, bringing attention to how much self-view comes into the picture. So that if in terms of offering dana, how much is it me offering this dana to get something for me or to make merit for my family, to turn the attention on who's this me that's making the merit, and who are these beings that it's being dedicated for, just to use that awareness to look at our own intentions. Who is developing concentration? Who is it that's making progress or not making progress? That's to be carrying out our familiar Buddhist activities, taking the precepts, practicing dana, practicing meditation, but along with that, questioning how much there's the I-making and mind-making coming into that, and also feeling and knowing directly that sense of I-ness and me-ness and minus. This is my dana, or I am practicing the precepts, or I have broken a precept, I am a bad person, or I am keeping all the precepts, I'm a good person. To turn the attention onto that I-ness and me-ness and minus, ahankara, mamankara, to look at that, to feel that and go, oh, look at that. There's a lot of self in this well-intentioned activity. And then through knowing and through appreciating that, developing that awareness of I-making and mind-making, then feeling that, knowing that, then there's a letting go of that. And in that, again, it might seem a bit subtle, but when there's a letting go of that self-centered habit, when it's not me giving dana to get something to make merit for me or for my parents, but rather there's the act of generosity coming from the heart, free of self-view, how does it feel? What's the difference? And that when there's an action taken in terms of generosity, of generous giving, keeping the precepts, practicing meditation, when that's free of self-view, free of conceit, how does it feel? And then the direct appreciation of those ways of Dhamma practice, as when they're free of self-view, that how much lighter that is, how much more joyful that is, how say liberating that is. So that there's a getting to know the difference between practice based on Dhamma and practice based on self-view in a direct way, and that then really letting that into the heart, knowing that directly. So that encourages more and more generosity and the cultivation of sila and bhavana. That becomes more and more guided and actualized by awakened awareness, by satipanya, rather than by me trying to get rid of my defilements, me trying to become enlightened, or me trying to create merit, and so on and so forth. And then through that direct experience of practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma, then that speaks for itself. There's an intrinsically liberating quality there, I would say. So on a practical level, that looking at the attitude, turning the attention around 180 degrees, like, who is this person who's making good, who's making merit? And to what degree is this, my practice, my mind, and then can that, through appreciating the stressing of that, letting go and looking at the result of the heart free of I-making and mind-making, and moment by moment being guided in that way.
Thank you, Ajahn. Anyone on the panel want to ask any questions? We have a question on the Q&A. Shall I read it? Venerable.
Or if it's written down, I can read it.
Oh, yeah. It's from Madira Kulatunga.
You put it in the chat box, and I can read it.
No, it's on the Q&A.
Oh, okay, yeah. It says no open questions on my screen.
Shall I read this then?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Venerable Ajahn, is it possible to explain the degree of calmness of one's mind required to move from samatha to vidarshana, or concentration to wisdom? Example from awareness of the breath in anapanasati meditation to impermanence in insight meditation with metta, Madira.
This is a very familiar question, and it can vary from person to person, but the general advice that I would give, also my teachers, Ajahn Sumedho, Ajahn Chah, would give, would be when there's enough concentration to be able to watch the arising and passing of the five khandhas, so that there might be the awareness of sounds in the room or outside the building where you are. There might be the noticing of different sensations in the body arising and passing, or different thoughts arising and passing. But if there's a stability of awareness that is able to know, like, okay, the rhythm of the breath is there at the center, but there's a sound out in the street, or there's a feeling in my knee, it's arising and passing. The mind isn't getting distracted or lost in those sensations or those sounds or those thoughts, and it's knowing that they're coming and going and changing. So when there's when the mind is not chasing after those sounds or those physical sensations or lost in those trains of thought, but rather there's a knowing, oh, there's a thought going on, or there's a memory just happened, or there's a sound of a passing car, then but it's not getting sucked away and carried off by that, then so that's an indication that there's enough stability of attention to open the field of awareness to let go of the rhythm of the breathing of Anapanasati as a specific object, and to open the awareness to be inclusive of the flow of all experience. So, how long that might take into a period of meditation is going to vary between individuals and also in an individual, depending on, are you on a retreat, or is it just the end of a busy working day, or if you got the family making a lot of noise in the house, or what's going on. So it'll vary from person to person and time to time. But that's the general benchmark, is if there's a steadiness of attention in the present, there's the awareness of the present experience and the arising and passing of perceptions and feelings without getting lost in distraction.
Thank you, Ajahn. Lalit, do you have any questions? Lalit is in Australia, I think. Are you there, Lalit?
I'm here, but I have no question, Lakshman. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Right. I'll hand over to Kamal to pay merit to Ajahn Amaru.
Sure, thank you very much. Buddha Saranai to you all. On the pre-Nikini Poya Day IDP program, we are all very fortunate to have Venerable Ajahn Amaru, the chief abbot of the Amaravati Buddhist monastery in the UK, to conduct the Dhamma program today. It was a very interesting topic about the quality of the awakened awareness. Much merit to you for this important and very interesting Dhamma talk. Today we had over 110 Dhamma friends worldwide. And further, Venerable Ajahn Amaru has participated on many programs previously on the Dhamma program, and we are very, very grateful of the participation and the connection to the IDP. And on behalf of all the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, and our Dhamma friends worldwide, thank you very much for your time today, Venerable. Much merit to you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Kamal. Chatira, you have anything to say?
Professor Lakshman, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to say thank you to Ajahn Amaru and on what he spoke about. And this is more of a question actually that I have to ask. So you were saying that the I making and the my making, that I have to get out of the samsara, but that is essentially where we start our journey. So I guess we have Vibhava Tanha within us at the start of the journey. So even when you're making merit and you say that, okay, we have to question ourselves as to who is this I? So that is at an intellectual level that we're questioning ourselves, and then later on it comes to insight and a realization. Is that how the process goes?
Yes, I would say that's exactly it. The Buddha's basic pedagogy, he starts from where we are, so that like in the 5 subjects of frequent recollection, I am of the nature to age. Jara dhammomi jarang natito. I am of the nature to sicken. Bayadi dhammomi bayading natito. I am of the nature to die. Marana dhammomi maranang natito. So that's where we start from. There's an I am. I am of the nature to age. I am of the nature to sicken. I am of the nature to die. So he starts off acknowledging the habits of self-view. But then through that acknowledgement, looking at that, then you're, in a sense, he's not trying to increase the habit of self-view, like, I am the genuine, absolute, permanent owner of this aging body, but rather, oh, look, this is how nature works. The body is aging, it is subject to sickness, and it will die. So then through that bringing of attention to those natural processes, then and appreciating how nature operates, the cause and effect quality of nature, then the aspect of non-attachment, non-entanglement, non-identification can arise. So what you're just describing, that's how it works. We start off from the habits of bhavatanha, vibhavatanha, and self-view. That's where we begin from. So that's why the Four Noble Truths starts off with idang dukkhaṃ. This is dukkha. Here is dukkha. It doesn't say that dukkha is an absolute reality, but here's the experience of dissatisfaction. Okay, let's look at it. Parinyayanti. It should be studied. It should be explored, investigated. So then through investigating that habit of I'm of the nature of the age, I'm of the nature of the sicken, I'm of the nature of the die, through that examination, that parinya, then that very looking, that very application of awareness and exploring, then that helps the insight into not-self to be actualized. So in the same puja, you can be reciting the 5 subjects of frequent recollection, and also the attributes of the 5 khandhas: rupang anatta, vedana anatta, sanya anatta, sankara anatta, vijnana anatta. The body is not self, feelings are not self, perceptions are not self. In the same puja every day, you can be reciting those words. So that's the Buddha's methodology. His pedagogy is to start from where you are, and then walking through those steps, what they call the anupupikata, the graduated teaching. So then through those steps, then the heart can steadily awaken more completely to the reality. Oh, this which is naturally aging and subject to sickness, yes, it's doing that, but that's not who and what I am. Oh, this awareness that knows the aging of the body and the process of sickness and death, this which is aware of it isn't the body. This which knows the body doesn't have a body. Awareness doesn't have a body. This which knows a personality or a name doesn't have a name, doesn't have a gender, doesn't have an age. Oh, so that through the development of sila and samadhi and panya, then that clarity of vision is supported and strengthened. And so then, but the Buddha didn't start off from the absolute point of view of but rather he starts off in his teaching from the practical experience of an individual. Okay, it starts off with I'm the body, I'm the personality, this is me. But then through acknowledging that habit and that familiar way of looking at things, then and the development of that capacity to look, to explore, to examine say investigation, Dhamma Vicaya or Yoniso Manasikara, then that leads to the quality of insight and the recognition of, oh yeah, there is a body, but this body is not who and what I am. There's a personality, but the personality is not who and what I am. Oh, and then that quality of awareness is more and more freed. And so you get that kind of interesting dynamic where he's faced the Buddha and taking the Tathagata as a way of describing the embodied quality of awareness, that right there, face to face with the Brahmin donor, he's saying, I'm not a human being. There's a human body that's speaking. There's a human body, there's this life, there's this conversation going on, but this isn't truly and absolutely who and what we are. That the mind which knows the world isn't born into the world. It knows the world, there's loka vitu, but it's lokutara. It transcends the world, but it knows the world. And this, I feel, is the challenge and the opportunity that we have in Buddhist practice, is to be acknowledging these aspects of the world, the body, the personality, our name, our occupation, our nationality, and so forth, but not to be defined by that. Yes, I'm a monk, but no, I'm not a monk. Yes, I'm a human being, but no, I'm not a human being. Yes, I'm British, but no, I'm not British. There's the experience of Britishness or monkishness and humanness, but that which knows the human isn't human. It's kind of mind-blowing, but liberating at the same time. I mean, it's mind-blowing in the best possible way.
Thank you very much, Venerable Ajahn. There is a thank you from Madeira. Venerable Ajahn, very clear, much merit with metta. There is one question. Can we take it, or is it?
Oh, we've still got 10 minutes or 9 minutes.
Yeah, right, okay. Understanding all phenomena is result of cause and effect, or see the impermanence of the 5 aggregates, which would be more helpful in lessening the ego. Thank you for an excellent Dhamma talk.
Well, I would say it completely depends on the conditioning of the individual. Yeah, different things work for different people. Yeah, for one person, contemplation of cause and effects might be extremely liberating. Oh, right, this has come from something, and it can't come from nowhere. This is a cause and effect process. Oh, that's how it works. And for somebody else, it's like cause and effect. So what? So the conditioning of the mind, our language, the habits of perception, our own the conditioning of the individual experience is varying enormously. So my encouragement to people is to experiment with different things, so that for someone, you talk about emptiness and it's not very helpful. For somebody else, oh, the 5 khandhas are intrinsically completely empty. Wow, yes, of course. And somebody else is like, well, that doesn't help. Or somebody says, well, the Dhamma is such, the experience of the present reality is such, it's thus. This is the quality of suchness, ta-ta-ta. Oh, yes, that's it. This is the way it is. Every moment is exactly this. Oh, right, of course, thisness. Yes. And somebody else, they hear that and they go, what do you mean? That doesn't help at all. Or, or a great variety. So I feel it's important to experiment, to use different languaging. You find your own ways of describing the experience and of working with the mind, the body, the world, and then finding what works to bring about that change of heart, that change of vision, and to use that, because that's why you have such a vast variety of teachings in the Pali Canon. The Lord Buddha spoke in dozens and dozens and dozens of different ways to different people, different situations, because faculties vary. And he, as he said in, I think in the Potapada Sutta, don't be attached to local expressions and ways of describing things. And he says in the Arana Vibhanga Sutta, the exposition on non-conflict, which I feel is a very, very important teaching. I think it's number 139, I think, in the Majjhima, the Arana Vibhanga Sutta, the exposition of non-conflict. So you can take the same thing and say, like the same object, and say, in one place they call this a saucer, in one place they call it a dish, in some place they call it a bowl, in some place they call it a cup, in some place they call it, and he has this whole string of like 9 different words to describe the same object. So like, in Uttarakuru they'll call it this, and in Vangsa they'll call it that, and in Magadha they call it this, and in Kolya they call it that, in Sakya they call it this, and in Sunaparanta they call it something else. It's the same thing, but we're using local usage varies, and so finding our own language, our own way of describing experience, and ways of bringing about that kind of transformation of view is the crucial thing. And so I'm very encouraging of people to experiment, to explore, and to find what is the agency whereby that letting go and that clarification of vision can be actualized, and use that. And it's going to vary. So a terminology or a method that was useful 3 years ago, maybe now it doesn't work anymore. So try something else. So that we're developing our practice in a very active and interactive, live way, rather than following an appointed system or a methodology that's been told to you or just got it from a book, but in a unconscious way. But looking at what really brings about those fundamental changes, that real change of heart, and applying that moment by moment. That's what's going to be most helpful.
Thank you very much. You're very thankful again and pay much merit to Venerable Ajahn Amaro for this talk, really where the topic itself mentioned on the marvelous, he had this on the marvelous quality of awakened awareness. I think the great depth to which Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro went through, and maybe the lucid way in which was explained, really, I think, enabled our Dhamma friends to get a really good meaning, because most of them are really talking of mindfulness and, of course, the importance of the mind. And this Dhamma talk today really brought a lot of maybe good, and also maybe, as mentioned, the awareness, which will really help all of them. So once again, let me thank and pay much merit to Most Venerable Ajahn Amaro, and also maybe in the closing stages, if we can pay merit to Devas and departed, and then close our Dhamma talk. Sir.
We'd like to have a dedication of merits.
That's right, Venerable.
Annamayang udisana ditana gatayo banamase imina punya kamena ubajaya gunutara acharyo pakara chamata pita chanyataka suryo chandima raja gunawanda Narapi cha brahmamara cha inda cha lokambara cha devantaya momita manusa cha majata verikapi cha sabesata sukhi hondu punya nipakatani me sukhancha tevidang tenduki pangpa petavo Matang imina punya kame na imina udi sena chaki pahang sulave chevatanu padana che tanang ye sandane ina dhamma yavani ba nato mamang nasandusa vandaye vayata jato Pawe uchuchetang satipanya sareko viriyamina mara labandhuno kasankatu chavirye sume buddha dipavaro nato Dhammo nato varuttamo nato Aceka buddho ca sango nato taro mamang te sotamanu bhavena maroka sanglaban tumam.
Sadhu. So thank you and much merit.
Well.
Thank you. Much merit to Ajahn. Sadhu.